So it is 3 o'clock and we are going to start. I know more participants potentially will be joining us a bit later. So I want to say hello to everyone. Thank you for taking the time. Our session today is from 3 o'clock until 4:30. We'll see how it goes in terms of the breaks and everything. Usually we don't do those during that time, but if you feel we need to, please let me know and we'll accommodate as much as we can. Now, you see the first slide. So we have a session about growing your LBS community, and it is really about connecting and sharing information about your program, about your learners, attracting new clients, and making sure that you have ideas and tips from others who are doing it well or who are willing to share with us some of the new initiatives that they have started. So without further ado, I'm just going to start our presentation and jump into the Zoom tips. One of the reasons we do that is some of you have been using Zoom for a while, but others may be just starting or relearning how Zoom works. We do have the ASL interpreters and those get in spotlighted for us. Usually that means they will be in top section of the video so you can see them. But if you need to enlarge your window or change the settings, don't forget that you can switch in the view section. You can do side-by-side gallery where you can actually shrink and enlarge the windows as well, just to make sure that things are working well for you and you can participate and be comfortable in our session today. And of course, the chat is our number one way to communicate, say hello where you are, what you're doing, how you want to connect with the community, include your tips and feedback as well. It's always very important. Our session is an hour and a half, but we kind of break it down into 3 parts. The first part is those overview tips, introductions, and so on. Then we get into the actual presentation, and we have 2 organizations presenting today, 3 guests, but two organizations. And we will have around 60 minutes for that. And then at the end, we will have more Q&A questions, a bit of follow-up, feedback, and so on to wrap up for today. Our guests today are Christina Rasso, who is a principal at the St. Albert Learning Center in Sudbury. So in the past, sometimes we included a map to let you know where everybody is from. So this one, you just imagine where Sudbury is, and Christina potentially will tell you a bit more about Sudbury. We also have Ambreen and Susan from MTML, Metro Toronto Movement for Literacy, a program in Toronto. Our organization, AlphaPlus, is also in Toronto, but we actually work from home. So we're a bit remote and cover the entire Ontario. So our services, our support agency actually works with programs across Ontario. The showcases we are doing today is really to kind of showcase, highlight some of the work programs are doing and give you some ideas and inspiration. My name is Monica. I'm the Organizational Development Specialist here at AlphaPlus. So you will see me chairing and hosting the session today. But behind the scenes, you may also see Tracy, and Tracy is posting some things in the chat. That's my colleague from AlphaPlus, who is a professional learning specialist. If you have attended some of our professional development training, that's often Tracy, who is making them possible for all of us. And we also have the ASL interpreters. You right now see Rebecca, and then also we are going to have Kim join us a bit later. And I'm going to keep an eye on Kim when she joins in. We are going to include her in the spotlight. As always, if there are any questions, please let me know. It's always important to make sure that we answer any questions or tips you may have. I will try to monitor the chat as we go. Okay, I love that you're doing the introductions. It's always so important. Now, before we jump into the actual discussion, it's time to do a bit of land acknowledgement. And we want to make sure and begin by acknowledging the Indigenous people of all the lands that we are on today. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improve our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the First Nations people that call this land home. Okay. And let's jump into the actual presentation or our discussions today. We are talking about growing your LBS community today, but I wanted to ask all of you a question. And the question is, to get us started, get us thinking about the topic today, how do you currently connect with your LBS community? What are some of the main tools and platforms that you use? And to do that, I'm going to use a tool called Slido. You have seen me using this tool before. You have 2 options. One is to go to slido.com enter the code you see in the slide and you will be able to answer the question. Or you can actually do a screen capture with your phone, just take a photo or launch the photo app. It's going to scan the QR code and take you to answer the question as well. I can see some of you are doing it in the chat. That's fantastic as well. It's just to kind of make us think about some of the things we are doing. So, Annick, I can see you mentioned Facebook, email, some of the tools you're doing. You will see as some of the feedback will be coming in that other organizations may be doing something very similar or something maybe different. So feel free to join that question in the Slido and let us know, how do you currently connect with your LBS community? There's a newsletter. See, sometimes we don't even think about mentioning something like that. That's fantastic. Agathi at Red Lake Adult Learning Center, social media, perfect. Local fairs, local events, perfect. Partner sharing, perfect. Pamphlets, wow. See, again, as we are thinking about some of those things, not all of them actually are something we are doing. So maybe something to consider for the future as well. Posters, social media is coming up quite a bit. So that means some of you are repeating and saying social media may be the way to go. Flyer sheets and sheets, okay. Twitter, I can see Twitter coming up as well. Even if it repeats, that's great. That's going to give us a bigger bubble to kind of let us know. Social media is still kind of coming up as one of the first ones. And when we talk about social media, it's going to be a topic that one of our guest presenters is going to mention quite a bit. But one of the things sometimes we forget is that what kind of content we put on social media, right? So it could be stories, it could be videos, it could be other things you're doing. So those are some of the topics that we are touching on today. And again, we really hope you're going to get inspired. You're going to get some ideas. You will connect with some of our participants as well. I can see monthly reports and updates are coming up, videos, absolutely anything that works for your community. A lot of times it's even word of mouth, and we don't really think about that, but the word of mouth makes such a huge difference when we are working with our programs. So thank you for participating. As you're bringing this feedback in, it's going to pop up and populate. We're going to share that feedback with others as well. But we really want to know, we are doing all those things, but what's working and how is it working? So one of the ways to do that is to ask our guests. So we will have our guests speak up a bit about those topics. But before we start, I just want to tell you what questions we are asking our guests. So that way they will be able to just chime in and talk about what they want to talk about and give you tips and ideas. So some of the questions we are asking our guests is just to introduce themselves and tell us a bit more about them. How do they grow their client base and community? What have they tried and what was effective, different, maybe innovative? And then they will be sharing some examples, maybe even showing examples to us, and then discuss what has worked and maybe what hasn't worked so well. And then in the end, they also, we hope, will share with us some advice, tools, tips, and resources that may be useful to others. So those are some of the things we're asking our guest presenters. And without further ado, I'm just going to jump in and introduce one of them to you, Christina Raso. Christina is going to be speaking up first. Christina, you can unmute if that's okay. I'm going to also spotlight you. And then your slide is coming up. You're going to guide me to switch the slides, and then we'll go from here.
All right. Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present this afternoon. So, as it was mentioned, my name is Christina Rasso, and this is actually my third year as an administrator. So, as a principal of the same school that I started as a VP, and that's St. Albert's Learning Center in Sudbury. So, maybe we'll go to the next slide.
Absolutely.
Sorry. So I started here as a VP, and then before I applied for, I'll just tell you a quick little story. I've had my principal qualifications for probably about 15 years, but I never really thought of becoming a principal. And then St. Albert's, which is an alternative school and also an adult learning center, really sparked my interest when the position was posted for a school-specific position. I applied. But before I applied, I had asked for a meeting with the director to understand what the vision was for the school. And at that time, I was told that numbers were low. They were thinking about, the viability of keeping the school open. They had rented a lot of the classrooms or rooms out to other agencies. So the second floor right now is rented by the French Catholic School Board. And then we had a couple of other rooms. An auditor rents another classroom. And then we also had a union office in the school, I guess, to help generate funds to keep the school open. So I knew with my experience, I'm an entrepreneur since I was a teenager, and my experience is special education. I did that for 13 to 14 years as a consultant for the board, and then I moved to experiential learning. So I knew that basically I see this as my culminating activity in life. I have 3 years left till retirement, and I knew that if they gave me the opportunity to work at the school, that I could improve enrollment, credit accumulation, and everything we needed to build the school. So what does the school offer? So we offer 3 under 18 programs, alternative programs. So, the students that are disengaged. We also offer the school suspension program here. So we offer 3 of the different programs, and then we offer literacy basic skills. We offer correctional literacy initiative, so that's at the Sudbury Jail. We also offer the personal support worker program. And we had applied for funding for the Skills to Success program, and we ran the Cleaner program the first year when it was funded, and it did so well. So we're continue to offer that. We offer continuing education programs. We introduced international heritage and language classes. So we offer on Saturdays for kindergarten to grade 6 students, we offer 2 classes of Italian, 2 classes of Yoruba, 2 classes of Ibu. And then we had a student-led business that was here when I started, but we built it into a bigger business. So it was initially called Peace Pens because the program was led out of the Peace Classroom, but we changed the name to Peace Pens and Beyond because it is now a student-led business available to any student regardless of age in our board. So we have adult students working, getting an entrepreneurship credit, a business credit, or a co-op credit, whatever they're missing, we kind of make it work for them. The next slide. So the workshop that I'm doing today, and I hope you find value in it, is really leveraging social media to build your school's reputation, enrollment, and community partnership. And I said to build community partnership, and then I realized it's more building community and community partnership because you're also building the community within your school. So in this workshop, we're going to look at the social media statistics in Canadian education because I think that's important. And then how do you leverage social media and using AI to help you to build your reputation, attracting new students, and building community partnerships? And how do you create engaging content and documenting your school's journey? And then a quick question and answer period. Next slide. So quickly, when we look at social media, we're looking, and this is Canadian, in Canadian education, we're looking that in 2023, 33.1 million people are using social media, and that represents 91.3 of the population percentage. So that's a pretty big percentage of people. And I think of my parents and my mother-in-law, she's 82, she's on social media, and my parents both are too. So, if they're on it, there's a lot of people who are on it. And when we look at platform popularity, We know that Facebook, as of 2023, was the most popular platform with 26 million users, then followed by Instagram. So I personally promote our school on Facebook as being the number one platform that I use, but I'm also trying to use, Twitter, which is X, use that, but I don't do it as often. And when we look at adult engagement, because that's the majority of the students when we're looking at adult education, it's 94% have at least one social media account. So we know that if you want to build your school's reputation, social media, it's free, is one of the best ways to do that. So the next slide. So you're going to see pictures of students. They're actual students here at St. Albert's. In there, it kind of jogs my memory of what I want to say, but it also represents a story. Every student is a story. And one of the things that I had applied for funding through our own school board was for entrepreneurship grant. I had applied for a green screen and a camera because because we have three classes and that represents about 50 students under the ages of 18 and it's continuous intake, I had an issue where students don't have student cards. They don't have student cards. They don't get discounts for busing and various businesses in the malls. They miss picture day. They miss graduation pictures, all these things. And because we're continuous intake, when we're looking at adults, they can graduate any time of the year. And how do you organize a photographer? And the final reason is that a lot of our students, and I would venture to say the majority of our students, are lower income. So having my secondary students run a photography club, they offer free digital images to our students. So what better way to for our secondary students to earn credits? So they, depending again what they need, whatever elective, they can earn photography. We can give them a business credit. We don't charge, so it's not a business that it's a club. It doesn't bring in any income, but they're busy. So these are two students. One of them is a cleaner graduate. So we thought, how are we gonna make our cleaner graduates look a little bit different in a graduation picture? And these are students' ideas. And the other one obviously is a mature student that shared his journey in one of our social media posts. So educational institutions, obviously across the world, are using social media and they are using it to enhance their reputation, to attract new students, and to foster community partnerships. So the next slide. So what strategies? So how can we use social media to build our school's reputation? And the easiest way is for things that we do every day. And it's just a matter of taking a picture or a video and posting it, obviously with the student's consent, and talk about it. So showcasing student achievements, by far, when you're tracking popularity of stories, and I'll share that a little later. When I'm sharing personal student achievements, the rate of people reading the article, the engagement is a lot higher. But I also use it to promote programs. So like this week, we're doing a big blitz on PSW information sessions for September. So I will use pictures of our current students, working in labs, working in placements, doing different things, and I will tell their story. But then I'll say, hey, are you interested in being a PSW? Come to our information session. I try to tie student achievement to a program so people can kind of see themselves in the stories. And again, engaging the community through interactive content. So we're one of the programs, they grew some plants and they're for sale this week. They're ready for sale. So, I'm teaching our secondary students how to post on Marketplace. They had to research the plants. So they did some research. Now I taught them how to post and then I post them and now we have community. So, we have retired teachers coming in and now they're coming into the building. The students have to talk to them about the plants and do that customer service um, interaction, which is also important, right? It's real life learning. And the key principles to when you're using social media or what stories to write is, to me, is you need to be authentic. True stories really sell, using a name, using their story with permission, of course, and with edits. There's a lot of stories that I share, and I may make reference to something that happened in their life, but I don't actually say what happened, right? With permission from them, we might say, despite several, backsets during, their earlier years, they're back on track. So I make reference to it, but obviously I use AI to word it out properly, which saves a lot of time, and it definitely makes a good story. The other principle to using social media is you have to be consistent. So I personally post a minimum of 3 times a week. Today, I have probably about 6 stories. Once you start using social media and your staff realizes what you're looking for and what you need, they become so engaged because they like for their programs to be showcased. They like for their students to be showcased. So you're getting all kinds of information. So I have a whole bunch of pictures that were texted to me, and then I plan them out for the week. I try to do not more than one a day, but I do plan them out. So, but I do make sure that they're all posted at some point. And then, like I said, we really celebrate student achievement. And when you celebrate student achievement, you make your school look good and it builds community within your school. So I have a student here in the picture. I obviously her story, I won't go into all the details, but she came to us through school suspension and expulsion. And then we transferred her to adult ed. She needed she accessed PLAR and all that, but then she needed 2 final elective credits. And I said, what are you interested in? And she said, I think I like working with kids. And we have a daycare on site. So I knew what better place to put her in other than a daycare co-op placement on site. So I can go check on her. She's familiar with coming to school. She also is a Crown Ward. So, I made sure to take that extra step to make sure that she knew I was rooting for her, but checking in on her and all of that. And in this graduation picture is Cindy, which is the program manager for the daycare, who actually hired her. So she's working right now at the daycare. So that is a success story. So one time we talked about her being a graduate and she finished her final 2 credits in the daycare. So I'm promoting the daycare at our school. So giving them, a shout out, honoring our partnership, showcasing a student who, despite adversity, has become successful. And then another story, which happens, 2 weeks later, she gets hired. And there's your picture of her getting hired. So we'll go to the next slide. Um, so one of the programs that we have, I mentioned, is at the Sudbury Jail. So we have a teacher working at the Sudbury Jail. So she is funded obviously through LBS, but she also facilitates the work that our continuing education teachers mark. So this note was slipped into one of the teachers' work, and basically this was one of the first stories that I posted without a picture. And I said, oh, it's probably not going to get a lot of traction because it's not colorful. It's plain, it's in pencil, but it did get over 5,000 hits. Now, 5,000 is low compared to some of the other numbers, but still 5,000 to me is considered a good advertising method for free, right? So basically, this person writes, and I won't go into detail to read it, other than it's a he, says, you're making such a difference to both men and women. I would just want you to know that we appreciate your time and energy. I, for one, did not think I would ever graduate school. However, people like you and Mel make dreams possible. I know my mother would thank you if she could. So I posted this with a message saying, a shout out to Mel, who's a teacher in the jail, but also to the student who slipped in this anonymous post. And then it was shared so often, right? It's such a beautiful message, right? And it's also a message of hope because now in my hand, I have a tool that can get me out of the cycle of drugs, crime, and jail. So we know that there's some people who could relate to this story. So we'll go to the next one. I'm just checking my time here. I don't want to go over. Another one is that when your students feel welcomed, they start posting things on social media and they tag you, and that's a positive too, right? Because it's an actual testimonial from someone rather than you interviewing them or making a post. So this one here was a student with special education needs. She's okay to share her story. She was a student with autism. She was in a specialized classroom for her secondary career. She graduated, with grade 9 and 10 credits, but never earned her 11 and 12 credits. So she writes that it's sad that today's a PA day, right? So who says that? So that's, an awesome story to share. We'll go to the next screen. This was one of the first stories that got a lot of traction for me when I started figuring out social media and what works and what doesn't work. And the things that work is when you put a picture, an emotion, and a true story, that really tugs at people's heartstrings. So here you have a picture of, a young man, he's tattooed, and the mother hugging him. And what happened here in this picture is this is a student that asked his mother to drive him to school to get his free graduation pictures taken. So she thought he got his GED like the other siblings. So she's on the bottom of the steps, we're ready to go upstairs to take the pictures. She says, "Oh, I'm glad you got your GED." And I said to Mom, no, he didn't get his GED. He got his full OSSD. And she's like, "What?" And she starts crying and she hugs him. And of course, I had my phone because I was going upstairs to help with the students to take the picture. So I'm like, "Hey, can I take a picture?" So I took the picture and then I asked if I could share the story. So this story here got over 10,000, as you can see, views. Because Facebook offers that, so you can track, offered that so I could see that. But the amount of phone calls we got, and this young man is kind of popular in the community. So people were saying, "Oh my gosh, if he could do it, I could do it." So people again relate to the possibility of I can earn my OSSD. So we'll go to the next slide. So before I go into the key principles of consistency, I have a picture that's going to remind me. So here we have Dawn Marie, who is our PSW clinical instructor, and she's a registered nurse. And Audrey, who is a graduate of the PSW program, who got into the paramedic program. So she comes in to visit, and I'm like, "Wow, you look gorgeous. Can I take a picture of you?" Right? And of course, she says yes. But then I could use this story to say, when I'm promoting the PSW, that program, that PSW, taking the program opens the doors to other opportunities like nursing and paramedic. And then, later on, we could share the story of Audrey, who came to Canada as a refugee, right? Had post-secondary in her country, but comes to Canada and, has to start from scratch. So she not only gets her PSW here, she then works to get her OSSD, then becomes a paramedic. So that's her story. And, having her picture really, again, other people can relate to her story. So when we're looking at key principles of using social media, it's consistency, right? So like I said, I personally do it a minimum of 3 times a week, and I post at nighttime. I know some people, um, you know, um, post during the day. I personally don't have that time to post during the day, so it's just very easy for me. If I have the pictures, I just I punch in the story in AI, and my story's out. It takes me like 5 minutes, right, to post, so I do it at night. And when you're using social media, it's always good to use, your school's brand, your values, your mission. Like ours is learning, a place for all, a success for each, a place for all. So I kind of use that in a few stories, not every story, but I try to bring out our mission vision. This week, for us, it's Catholic Education Week in Catholic schools. And for me, I will use that for adult education stories too, right? I will pull it in and make it fall into the theme. And using consistent visuals, hashtags, and tones to establish a recognizable online presence. We'll go to the next slide. And again, the key principles to celebrating achievements is highlighting student accomplishments, promoting events and traditions and cultural initiatives. So we pretty much celebrate everything here. So, every holiday, anything we can do, we tie it into, like if it's EA Day, Teacher Day, PSW Day, whatever, St. Albert's Feast Day, we make opportunities to celebrate. And celebrations don't have to cost a lot of money. Our students here, and these are just for secondary students, but our secondary students run a breakfast program here, and they also make their own lunch. But the breakfast program, we offer it to all of our students. So our adults are also included in that, and they earn a foods credit. So for us, making pancakes or baking cookies for a celebration isn't a big deal. But having for us to honor people and to give them something like a cookie, like Smile Cookie Week was last week. It's not a big investment to make a big impact and just putting it on social media. So we bought Smile cookies for our PSW students and preceptors, and we got them delivered for their placement with a thank you note. And, that makes people feel important, and it also honors the community partnership that we have. And of course, we take pictures and we post and do a shout out. So we'll go to the next slide. So here's another story here. Again, 6,000 now doesn't seem a lot when you're getting over 20,000 hits and other stories. But again, this is graduation. These students here turned 18, so they were able to access PLAR. You don't know you don't know their story, but they're a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and she was pregnant. They made a commitment to us and to themselves that they would both finish their OSSD before the baby was born, and they did. So we did a story. We didn't say that she was having a baby, and we just said she had a goal. They did it. And the other thing that's really important is acknowledging not only the teachers and the educators that work in your building, but the gentleman in the middle is the attendance counselor. He's no longer involved when students are 18, but he was part of their journey. And we took a picture of him with them. The students are like, I want that picture with Brad. And how does, sometimes attendance counselors get overseen because they don't really belong to us, at least in our board. They work at all the different schools, so they don't actually, belong to St. Charles or St. Albert's. So they're getting recognition, and they make comments like, people are jealous that we're on your social media page and stuff. So it's building community. We'll go to the next page. Sorry, on that
Awesome.
one there was over 6,102 impressions on that one.
And Christine, just before you go, your hashtags, goal getters, graduation, hard work pays off. That's also, noticeable.
Right. And those are AI generated. So when we're talking about, making hashtags, it doesn't involve a lot of thought. You're writing the story of what you want to say, you're saying the tone, and then you're just saying, give me some hashtags that go with it, and it generates it. This one here, I wanted to share again. It's not like the most clicks on it, but it's over 12,000. To me, 12,000, it's free. This is husband and a wife. I did not know they were a husband and a wife. I actually was on social media, and the wife said she's excited. She finally earned her OSSD, and she was actually a friend of St. Albert's. So I just reached out in a private message saying, "Where did you graduate from?" And then she said, "St. Albert's." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I said, "Did you get your free graduation pictures done?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, why didn't you come in? Our students do free graduation pictures." And then she says, "Can my husband come and get his graduation pictures done too?" And I said, "Is he a student at St. Albert's?" He says, "Yeah, he finished 2 weeks ago." And I said, "Well, of course." So they both came in. And then I talked to them and I said, "Hey, can I do a story?" It's not too many people that are couples that come together and they graduate together. And she said, "Yes, of course." And then I said, "Can I get a quote from you? Can I talk to you?" Because actually, like a lot of the students, you don't necessarily know their stories. You don't, might not even know them, right? So I sat down with her and found out that she has, between the both of them, they have 7 children. And she came to St. Albert's and first did her PSW. And she was pregnant at the time. So she finished the PSW, had her baby. And then there was some tragedy. Both her parents died in a motorcycle accident. So she didn't finish getting her OSSD as the plan. He got laid off this year. So they decided this year was going to be the year that they changed things. So she shared her story. Again, I didn't say exactly what her story was, other than she was a parent of 7. She's actually graduating with one of her, the same year as one of her sons, and they're both graduating. So I think that's a beautiful story that people could relate to as well. So we'll go to the next one. So this one here, again, you have a whole you have a whole community of educators celebrating a student's graduation. Make it fun. It's a really cute picture. It's going to attract people. Again, under 10,000 views, but it's a good story. And we'll go to the next one because I know I want to honor the time. I'm a little bit over, but we're
No,
almost
take
done.
your time. Take your time.
Okay. So we are using social media to attract new students. So here you go. You have a student that posts, "I love my school, St. Albert's," right? Tags us. The one on the right-hand side is actually a story just a couple of weeks ago. I'm scrolling through social media. I see a tag and I'm like, "Hey, that's our lockers. Those are our quotes. What's this on there?" And you have another student saying, "I really enjoy going to school here at St. Albert's Learning Center. We're tagged. They're so welcoming. I got 8 credits from just doing a portfolio." Here she goes, promoting PLAR for us. "I usually struggle with attending school, but since I've started here, I've been attending all time and I enjoy it a lot. I'm so thankful I have the opportunity to learn here." That's her words, not ours, right? So beautiful story to just share. And we'll go to the next one. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So the next slide is building community partnerships. And again, like I said, you're building community. That's what you're doing, because if you're showcasing a student, behind every student is a team, right? So it's the teachers, and it's not just one teacher, it's the educational assistant. It's a team of people that come together to make that one student successful. So I try to always do a shout out to the team for something that they've done to support that student. But we're also building community partnerships. So this one here is just basically an example that we're running the Italian language program. It's a partnership between the Cruzo Club, which is Italian Heritage Club in Sudbury. So they're promoting the language program because they obviously want the Italian language to continue. And but when they come to our school, they realize, "Hey, do you have a student-led business?" And we do. And you can see that our students, you can see some spoons there. They gave out 500 of these spoons in Italian that say "tutta tavola mangiare," so everyone to the table to come and eat, was given at their membership banquet. And then for Christmas, they gave these little ornaments and they tied them to the kids' Christmas gifts at their Christmas celebration. So, your community partnership is 2 ways. So that's just showcasing that. And if we go to the next slide. I just want to show you a little bit more about partnerships. We are obviously a Catholic based school. So when I started here, we really didn't have a lot of faith projects going on. So I knew that that was something we had to build. So I connected with the parish. So the parish comes every second week and we run a religion program for our secondary students. But we allow our adults to participate in any of the celebrations we have or anything that they're welcome because at the end of the day, religion is just about being a good person, right? It doesn't matter if you're Catholic or Protestant. It's about being a good person, and we always invite everybody in the school to join in on any of our events. So this one here, we created blessing bags for the homeless, and then the picture on the bottom, the church was raising funds. So they were having a bake sale because they need to replace the stairs. So our students baked for an entire week and and then we donated the baking to the church's bake sale. So again, you're showing the partnership. They're coming here every 2 weeks, but we're giving back to them as well. And then in social media, they're posting about our partnership and we're posting about their partnership. So it's always a two-way. So we'll go to the next one. Sorry, I have about 6 more slides. So here we go. This one, I'm going to say these two pictures are about sisters. So on the bottom right-hand corner, you see Audrey, remember the paramedic from Nigeria, and her sister, both in the PSW program. I love their PSW uniform, so I took a picture of it, but it makes a beautiful advertisement. You know, I had them against becoming a PSW locker wrap. And then in the top left-hand corner, we actually they're cut off a little bit, but we actually had 3 sisters that were brought to Canada from the bishop to work in the hospitals, in northern hospitals like Elliott Lake, but they don't have their PSW qualifications. So partnership with the bishop, they came and took our PSW program. So I used these pictures again to talk about the bishop's partnership and bringing these sisters in from Nigeria, and they're taking the PSW program. Do you want to be a PSW? Here's the next information sessions. So, and we'll go to the next slide. And again, staff. At the beginning of the year, you see on the bottom right-hand corner, we did an activity. We bought 2 bushels of apples. Everybody could have their picture taken against the green screen with an apple on the first day of school. The activities are, what's your core values? And that's kind of the theme. We had everybody in our school, from custodians to managers, to our IT guy, to our secretary, attendance counselors. Anyone who came in that first week was posed with an apple. I mean, by the end, I had one apple that was really wrinkly, but you couldn't tell. We took a picture of them. We shared their core values on social media, and people loved it. I just have on the top of that, you see 2 people in blue Sudbury Catholic t-shirts, the custodian and a cleaner student who take our students on placement. And then I have the picture there of the grad with 3 staff members, attendance counselor, educational assistant, and teacher. This kid, beat all odds. And he even made a quote, if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door, right? And we did his story, and he had quite a few. I think he had over 15,000 clicks on his story. We'll go to the next one. And this one here is so far has been the highest amount of clicks for me. We have 21,429 clicks. Just a grade 12 student who met her goals. We took a picture outside. She threw the graduation cap, and there we go. And, she's sharing her success at St. Albert's. She met a deadline to, I believe, before Christmas. Yes, before Christmas, that she was going to earn her OSSD. And we talked about it. And there you go. There's her story. So we'll go to the next one. And it's really about creating engaging content and doing fun pictures, showing people happy. Anything with emotion is really what I found, as my personal experience, drives attention to your ads. Videos for me, not so much. Maybe I'm just not a good video creator, but I know that when you tell a story and it's authentic and true and people can relate to it, it's definitely going to build partnerships and student engagement. Go to the next slide. And when I talk about leveraging, if I had to write these stories, I'm a perfectionist when it comes to writing. Like it takes me a long time to write things. I reread it, I read it out loud. Um, I wouldn't be able to do that without the assistance of chat. So right now, I'm pretty confident that I just punch in, what I want, the tone. A lot of times I say I'm the principal of an alternative education school. I kind of write who I am so chat knows. I write the tone. I want it to be inspirational. I want it to be fun, whatever. I might even say insert a motivational quote from, someone that that students can relate to. And then I put the details of my story in there and it generates something in seconds. I don't always accept the first time something comes out of chat. I might tweak it. Typically, I don't accept the first, but within 5 minutes, I have a good story to write. So I use Canvas sometimes, but like I said, I like using pictures better than images that I'm creating or flyers. Some people say Buffer AI. I've never used it, but I thought I would list that. And basically, using AI saves time, makes really good stories. If it helps me tie different themes to things, like I said, this week's Catholic Education Week, everything that I'm going to post, I'm going to ask AI to tie it to the theme, and it'll do a good job on that. And that's it on that slide. And I'm getting to the closing ones. And for me, what I noticed, it was like an end result. It wasn't something I purposely did, is that if you're posting consistently 1 time a week or whatever, like I said, I'm doing it 3 times a week, I'm creating a digital portfolio for my school, a digital yearbook. Every post serves as proof that this happened. And over time, I refer back to it. So I was able to, my first year, write a principal's report to my superintendent of the things I implemented. And I was able to link my story, like not every story, but the important stories into my report. So what better way to do that than, you have to go back through your agenda and go through things otherwise, but a digital portfolio, everything was there for me. And, I can go back now 3 years, right? So I can pull anything I need if I'm looking to apply for grants, if I'm looking to like funding, contests, anything like that. Everything's on there. I have all those pictures. I don't have to save 10,000 pictures on my phone because it's up on social media and I can grab it at any given time. So go to the next slide. So, within my first 2 years, I was able to make a video with the students on the video earned us first prize in Canada. We were considered the school of the future. And that was just by pulling what we were already doing in curriculum and basically using our student-led business and the profits of it to serve the community. But we had all the stories, we had all the pictures, and we just inserted it into a video. And we won first prize, which was a $25,000 prize pack. And then last year, we applied for the Michael Monk Award, again, where we used the profits of our student-led business to serve the homeless. So we made money and then we created the blessing bags and once a month, we do something for the homeless and we got that award. But again, I was just able to pull what we were doing from social media. So my last takeaways, so the last slide is post consistently because you can't post one story and then 2 months later post again. You has to be consistent so that you have followers and you have people looking. I have my staff always looking like, okay, what are you posting this week? It builds that kind of excitement. I take pictures of students. They're wanting to see their picture up, so they're waiting for it. You have to use, well, I have to use AI because that saves time for me, makes me more efficient at what I do. And again, doing this at the end, you have a digital portfolio. So if you're applying for a job somewhere else, this is what I've done, right? And again, I have pictures there of one of our cleaner students at the top. She got hired by Molly Maid. There you go. Do our cleaner program. Next program's running in 2 weeks. Be like, I'm sorry, I can't even remember her name at this moment, but she got a job with Molly Maid. And down on the bottom, we have three PSW students. This was during Catholic Education Week. I believe last year we bought cookies for our staff, and our students, our secondary students, wrote inspirational messages, and we gave them out to the adult students. And then the adult students wrote messages on other cookies and gave it to the secondary students. So it built like those adults getting a cookie. Actually, it wasn't Catholic Education Week. That was Valentine's Day, now that I think of it. And those adults are like, oh my gosh, so cute. Like you could hear them. They were so touched that our students would have written, an inspiring message to them, that they wrote messages back. And it was a beautiful thing. So that's it. And I'm sorry, I know I went over time. So that,
No, we accounted for that. That's why we have two programs presenting this week. But lots of great ideas. And I have to say, I know I met Christina earlier at a conference, and I saw Christina talking about some of the tools she's using and the stories. And it's not only about showing and posting on social media, it's also the ideas, Christina, you shared, your lockers with the quotes, the Apple story, the pictures. There's like a fountain of ideas that you have that you continuously implement and then energize the school and everybody around you, which is really, really amazing. And then I think sometimes we forget about that. We just think about posting, but we don't have ideas. You actually implement so many different programs, ideas, events that you organize that actually help. Um,
well, it improves
yeah,
engagement, right? Like
exactly.
if we're taking that away, it's just like if you're doing fun things every day, students want to come to school, right? And the adults included. So, and I know like when I started the school, it's an old school, army green rusted lockers. That was the first thing I did, was cover them with student pictures. So,
Wow, that's amazing. So we have a time for questions for Christina. If there is anyone who wants to unmute and ask a question or comment, we also can put content in the chat if it's a bit easier before we jump into the next presentation. Any thoughts, any ideas, feel free to reach out or say something.
We were just wondering, what do you find better, Instagram or X or Facebook for engagements?
So for me, it is Facebook, but it also goes in line with the research, right? Is saying that most people use Facebook. So that's where I've been dedicating my time. I haven't posted on our school Instagram. I've done, the Twitter X a little bit, not consistent enough. So for me, it's more Facebook for me is where I dedicate my time.
Thank you.
And sometimes it may be a choice. Like we at AlphaPlus, again, an organization that doesn't work directly with clients, but we also notice that anytime we share pictures from actual real pictures from events we go to, visits to programs, conferences, that makes a big difference for the community
Yes.
because we can see and connect with what really is happening rather than stock images or just posts. So there's a huge difference in that. And then not everybody checks all of those social media platforms. So picking or focusing on one first sometimes may be the best method to make sure that there's a group or following there as well. And I can see there's a raised hand from Ambreen. Ambreen, go ahead.
Hi. Sorry if there's a lot of noise over here. I'm sitting in a hotel lobby. Um, so I've been today and yesterday we were in a Learning Networks of Ontario in-person meeting, and we were discussing the social media platforms, what to use. And somebody commented very well. I mean, we were thinking maybe X, let's just get rid of X, right? But there was a really good comment that depends on whom you're trying to target. So if you're trying to target an audience, let's say political figures or MPPs, or all of them are using Twitter
Yep.
or X, right? So in that way, we all said, okay, let's just think about whether we need to remove it. So again, depends on your audience. And that's how you would select the platform.
Good
Sorry,
point.
Christine, I just added that.
No, that's a very good point.
Point. Yeah. Thank you, Ambreen. Anybody else that wants to say or share or discuss something with Christina?
Sorry, I'm wondering, do you have problems with getting people to sign the release of information in terms of the pictures?
No, not at all. And at first, sometimes I get all students who register who are in person, right? Like we have a lot of students that are not in-person learners. So I try to get everybody to sign when they register. And sometimes I'll get a no, but if I see them, I still ask them and they say, yeah, yeah, it's good. And then we just adjust it. Um, so no. So the no's turn into yeses typically.
That's a good question as well. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good question.
keeping that in mind and then kind of asking over and over. And then, people change their mind or see other people being
Yeah.
showcased or highlighted, and then they
But
want to be part of
but
that.
I also show them the picture before I post it. So I don't just take pictures and then post it without them seeing it. So I'll say, hey, is it okay if I take a picture? Are you okay? If I put it on social media, this is what the picture looks like. So they can say, oh, let me redo it, or because I don't like my picture taken without
Absolutely.
what it looks like. So that's the other thing I do is I make sure that they like the picture.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Christina. We really appreciate all the ideas you shared with us. We have it in the slides. We link to your organization and Facebook page if others want to follow or get inspired by some of the things you're doing. But if anything, I'm sure people can reach out to you or we can,
Yes,
help
thank
if
you.
any questions
For
arise.
sure.
We'll be
I
very happy to do
apologize for
that.
going over.
Oh,
Thank you.
it's okay. Thank you so much, Christina. And what I will do next is we'll jump into the next part of today, which is Literacy Legacy Project, which is our MTML team, and that's going to be Ambreen and Susan. So, Christina, I'm going to just quickly make some changes and pin you, and then I will make sure that our Ambreen and Susan are spotlighted. And then I have to find Susan. Here we are. We go. Perfect. And over to you, Susan and Ambreen.
Oh, hello, everyone. Thanks, Monica, for inviting us here. It's such a pleasure and it's an honor to be here and talk to different programs about our latest project that we completed. I'm Ambreen. I'm the Executive Director at Metro Toronto Movement for Literacy. And before I introduce Susan, who's our project lead for our podcast project, um, I would just like to tell you a little bit about what MTML does. So we're a support organization, like an umbrella organization, and we support adult literacy in Toronto and York region. We do provide professional development, we create resources, and we build that awareness about adult literacy. So in the past few years, we've been working very consciously on how to integrate technology with our messaging. And I agree with whatever Christine said, because we've been using social media as well, and just added our Instagram account. So this Literacy Legacy Project was another step to integrating technology with our messaging. Susan, would you like to introduce yourself and then we'll start?
Okay. I just want to comment that that was a fabulous presentation. And I found it interesting that your parents who are in their 80s are using technology. My mother-in-law just turned 100, and her favorite line is just Google it. So it's kind of funny. Yes, I'm Susan LaFave, and I've been in the adult literacy field for a number of decades. I was started in the elementary system, went to adult high school, taught credit there in Quebec. When I moved back to Ontario, I was an instructor and an assessor in adult literacy, eventually became a manager for the Toronto District School Board, which in fact is the largest provider of adult literacy across the country. And I'm retired from them, but I love literacy so much and I'm very passionate about the field that now I do special projects for Metro Toronto Movement for Literacy.
Yeah, we
This,
bringing Susan back.
yeah, I really enjoy it. So this idea actually was started with some thinking around how many programs were losing instructors during COVID and right after COVID. So having to go remote actually sped up some people's plans for retirement. Plus, it was kind of a perfect storm. If you look at adult literacy, at least in the Toronto area, the average age of an instructor was, late 50s, early 60s. So we noticed that there was sort of a brain drain or knowledge drain in the field, and that there were lots of instructors being hired who may have had experience teaching and maybe in adult education, but not necessarily in adult literacy, which is different than ESL. And so Ambreen and I started talking about this. Ambreen, of course, sparked the idea that we need to somehow find a way to share this knowledge and to help new instructors. So we applied for, or Amberine applied for a Peter Zosky Foundation grant, and it was to produce 20 projects or 20 podcasts that were specifically, the audience was new instructors. That could be anybody from, 5 years and less, really, in that field. And that we would seek out experienced, either retired or instructors that had a lot of years in LBS programming and academic upgrading at the college level. And we would do these podcasts, informational podcasts. And so that's what we did. And it was we just finished it. It was an amazing experience for both Amberine and I. We had not a clue how to do podcasts. And boy, did we learn a lot. We were fortunate enough to hire a editor, Violet. What was his last
Craig,
name, Amber?
Craig Innes.
Okay. Who was really experienced, not only experienced, but a very enthusiastic, passionate editor. He himself teaches podcasting at CAMH, which is the mental health center in Toronto, to, clients of CAMH. So he had has the mindset of being very open to the types of clientele that we may serve, people with multiple barriers. So he was, Violet was perfect for our needs, and we learned a lot from him.
So just to add to that, I mean, Susan's so experienced, but when I entered the literacy field, I was very new. So I talked to lots of knowledgeable and experienced individuals, and that's where, as Susan had mentioned, we came up with the idea, okay, you know what, we need to transfer this knowledge. And me and Susan, I think the pair was great. I mean, just telling you about our experience, because I was a newbie while Susan was the experienced person. We talked to experienced people from the field who had left, and I think their experiences, their examples would definitely help anyone who's entering the field or who wants to even just polish themselves, because great tips from all kinds of different individuals.
And to add, we're just gonna sort of leapfrog over each other like we normally do. The topics surprisingly were not around, how do you teach spelling, or, how do you teach fractions? What experienced practitioners wanted to talk about were all those sort of nuanced things that one should know that will make your practice better. For example, we had Jenny Horseman, who is an expert in the impact of violence on learning. So she did 2 podcasts on what should you be looking for, how do you respond, what are the ways that you can support people who have had trauma in their lives. And I think we all can sort of identify with that. When we think about the students that come into our programs, and perhaps even ourselves. So there was that. There was one that one of the first ones we did was with 2 long-term experienced LBS instructors who taught at the school board. And their podcast was, we did it together with them. It was around how do you create an engaging classroom community. And so they talked about how they created that, and they gave some really wonderful insights on that. Another one was we interviewed an instructor who teaches at the correctional facility East York, no,
East
West
Detention.
Detention Center, East Detention Center. And she was extremely passionate. In terms of popularity, that was very popular, especially with people who aren't even in the field, because she was so passionate about, and you could feel her enthusiasm. And in that podcast, she kind of debunked all the myths that people might have about someone in the correctional facilities and what they feel about education. It was excellent. Amberine, what else stood out in your mind?
So I think if Monica, you go back one slide, I just wanted
Yep.
to talk about the outcome first before we actually. The reason is that when me and Susan started working on the podcasts, we were thinking of a format. What format do you? And usually in podcasts, it's a question answer sort of a format. We avoided that. We went into conversational style. So I think when you listen to the podcast, you're going to realize there was a lot of planning and there was a lot of preparation we had to do because there were pre-podcast recording conversations that we had, but it helped us build up a framework. So it was a framework we worked around, and Susan did a great job on that. We worked around a framework. We again discussed it with the interviewee, and then we recorded the session. Editing was done later on, but we tried to maintain that 30 minutes. So our podcasts, what we came out with was 20 podcasts, 30, 35 minutes. The maximum, I think one or two may go up till 45 minutes, but the rest are all 35 minutes. And so it's not only available on our website, anybody who's listened to Apple podcasts or Spotify, iHeartRadio. So it's a variety that we offered just to make it more accessible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And I think that the we originally thought we would interview one person. And I think we did that once. Well, Jenny Horseman we did because her sessions are so packed with information. And we did another one with a reading specialist. But they were very information dense and very experienced speakers too. So most of the people we talked to, it was surprisingly, we had to coax people because it's kind of intimidating. Oh my gosh, I have to talk for 30 minutes. And they were a conversational style, which is actually quite challenging. And so there was a lot of editing had to be done. But when we finished with those, interviews, those podcasts, the people that we did two and sometimes three. Three was quite challenging, but they all said that they really appreciated the time that it gave them to reflect on their practice. And a couple of them had been in the field for 15 years and they were still teaching. But just the opportunity to think about their practice and to pass on some things that they had learned that you can only learn through doing, first, but to be able to share that with new instructors, both Amberine and I thought that was so invaluable.
I mean, in our proposal, when we put in the proposal, we did focus on these 5 key literacy services. So yes, that was our parameter. But the topics we selected were, for example, it wasn't filling out that ministry registration form, right? We talked more about, okay, how does that intake conversation, that initial conversation, or look like, or how do you create a more safer environment for a learner? So topics like those, which are more nuanced, are not very paper-based or admin heavy. So, and exactly that comes from experience. And we tried to target all school board. We took the voice from school boards, college programs, and community-based. We did include Indigenous perspective, deaf, blind. And Francophones was a tough one to get, so we couldn't add them. But otherwise, the end product, besides this podcast, we just came up with a printed resource. Now, the printed resource is available on our website. It does include different ways you can use to train instructors or to train, there are different ways to incorporate these podcasts in your own training as well. Plus summaries and transcripts, which was a big challenge too. So a lot of work has gone into it, but I really think the feedback we're getting, and just, I mean, I was just looking at this 328. I checked last night, Monica, it was 503 because I presented this project somewhere else today. I had to update the stats. So 503 in 4 days. So I think the feedback we're receiving is very positive, that it is helping new instructors or even those who are there in the existing programs.
Needs just to chime in. One of the reasons why we wanted to feature that is that because it's podcasts. Not everybody's doing podcasts, and it may sound overwhelming or challenging, but even just thinking of Christina's initiatives and things that they're doing in the school, it could be a podcast just interview with somebody who is participating in a program, somebody who just graduated or somebody who got a job, and then it could still be part of connecting and growing the community. In your case, you are doing podcasts for literacy instructors, but you're growing the community because so many people are retiring, and you're building the knowledge for those who are just joining the field, so it makes such a big difference as well.
Yeah, yeah. And we learned a lot of technical things on the way that, for example, I was using my laptop with the speaker, and clearly, very quickly I found out it wasn't an adequate, speaker on my laptop. So our video, podcaster said to me, use your phone. The speaker on your phone is excellent. So he said, when you have to record little clips, use your phone. So I can very well see sitting down with a student and just turning on your phone and having an interview that way. And Violet, our editor, said this is grassroots podcasting. It's not going to be CBC, quality. We're not all in a sound booth, but he said this is what makes it attractive to some people. It's very authentic. So there was a lot of editing done after. I had to review all of the transcripts and cut out large, long stories. And
Just to add to these podcasts, initially we didn't decide that learners would be a part of our podcast. And while talking to all these practitioners and instructors, we realized learners' perspective was so important as well. So honestly, for me and Susan, that was the toughest because we did talk to 5 different learners. Uh, we included 4 learners' voices in it because of different reasons, but we had to narrate the story. So again, it's a different format, but it just echoes what the instructors were telling us. So it's just
very
like
much.
validating that yes, whatever the instructors or those who had talked in during our podcast, that's what the learners require. So you can use even that podcast with your learners. Use it and say, "This is what learners have to say."
Well, there was one that I think is very fits that very well, Ambreen. And we interviewed 2 people from academic upgrading at the college level. And there are many people at the high school LBS level that want to transition into ACE. But it can be very intimidating. You're going to this big college, you don't know where to go, who to talk to. And so their podcast was excellent. They went step by step what the process what the process was, how that all the supports that the colleges offered. And if you shared that with your learners who were thinking about transitioning, it would really alleviate some of the stress and sort of fear that they have moving on to that next step. So there were a number of them, I think, that could serve that purpose.
And thanks, Monica, for changing the slide. But we did add these how to use a podcast a little bit with more details in our resource book. So in case you want to, go back and say, oh, what did we say? Just go on our website. The resource book is available. But these are just some ways how the podcast can be used. I mean, we were thinking maybe if there's an orientation on our onboarding training sessions for your instructors, make it more structured, take out a few not modules, convert them into modules, say podcast number 4 about structured reading, read it, listen to it, and then have discussions. So there are different ways. There was a lot of talk about teamwork and support by the rest of the team. So I mean, I wouldn't have survived probably in the literacy if Susan wasn't there, because she was my mentor. So you need such experienced people to mentor you. And that goes the same for our literacy programs, right? So
Yeah, and just to sort of finish off, just to tell you, there were a couple of themes that ran through every single podcast. And it wasn't that we constructed it that way or, organized it that way. It was number one was listening, Brain. Every single podcast included if you don't listen to learners and sort of respond to that. And the other one was the extra support outside the classroom support, the referrals that ran also through just about every podcast. And those are things that, if I'm a new instructor, I may think, well, I've been hired to teach reading, writing, and math. But of course, we all know it goes much deeper than that. But the outside referrals might surprise a brand new instructor. Oh, I have to think about food banks, free dental clinics, healthcare supports. Um, that's something that, I think was really carried through all of them.
and I think all of the referral, besides referral, it was more the instructor to and student relationship was also a huge
Yeah.
highlight. And all of the learners whom we spoke to reiterated the same thing. It's so important for instructors to have that relationship. What kind? What are the limitations? All those questions. Take a listen. I mean, I even listen to the podcast at the gym. I've replaced my music. So, yeah, do give us feedback if you want to. Um, our our funding has ended for this one, but let's see if things permit. We're hoping to do one or two more podcasts every year just to keep it going. So if you come up with a new topic, say, oh, you know what, we need help with this, send it to us, and we'll try to incorporate that. Susan, do you want to add something, or should I talk about the videos?
And then just
Go ahead
before,
with it. Go ahead. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Monica.
And just before you jump into that, one of the reasons why we're bringing the videos is again because we're trying to reach out to the community, we're trying to connect. And the podcast is one package, it's a project, but again, those can be organized or introduced in many literacy programs more as connecting with the learners, quick videos, quick tips, quick feedback about the program. Videos is a bit different story, and Ambreen and MTML has been really kind of almost a leader for many of us to looking at some of the things that are posted online because those are very informative and a very different way to deliver information, right? So switching from just reading content in reports and documents, you have been introducing all kinds of different resources and videos, different posters and graphics and other things. So I really wanted to highlight that as well because it's kind of amazing. And is it easier, Ambrini, if I just click on the link to open it, or how would you like
Sure.
to go about that?
Sure, you can just open the video.
Okay.
I'll just tell you why I started creating these videos. Initially, I remember I hate reading reports and research stuff that is so lengthy. So I started creating infographics, and I know, Monica, you have a session next week on Canva. So I started making some infographics on Canva. Once that was out, I said, okay, maybe we need to create more videos because people watch videos, right? And that's a really good thing. I mean, we got the most likes, shares, and views on our videos on social media. And so that's where we started advocating about or talking about literacy through videos, not more than, I think the max goes up till 2 minutes and 20 seconds. That's it, not long, lengthy videos. The platform I used was Vyond, VYOND. I started with the unpaid version. It has limitations, but you can please test it out. They've got templates where you can just put in information, you can play around with it, put in your own text. The text I took from the infographics, which I had created. So again, it was that process. The paid version is also available. It is a bit pricey, but that's where you can download more subtitles you can allow. But if you upload it to YouTube event, even if your organization has a YouTube channel, then subtitles do appear there if you fill it out manually. So that's no issue. But these videos, each one of them, we got more shares. So many shares. That's how the stats went up with these videos. And share these with your learners. Just say, okay, you know what? You can't understand why this is affecting you that way. Or, we've talked about mental health. We've talked about how programs help with numeracy or digital skills so there's, I think, how many videos? 14? 14? Yeah, 14 videos. And they're all free to share. Download them and just share it with people. I think that's, I'm a big fan of videos. So, and Christine, I saw you speaking and I said, oh, okay. Beyond is a great platform. Canva is a good one too, but you have to work more. I mean, this one provides much better templates and easier to navigate.
Breen, would you mind putting in the chat the name of the tool you
Yes,
used?
I will.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for sharing all that. I know we are kind of getting tight on time. So rather than kind of going back, I'm just going to open the floor and serve any questions or comments for Breen and Susan. I'm just going to start off with Mike's comment, who put it in the chat. I'm a new instructor. I'm not surprised by the wide range of things that need to be brought of because I was an adult learner myself. I can see how it may surprise some new instructors. Talking about the podcast and the topics you were highlighting as well. Any other comments and questions for Susan and Ambreen? I know, even when we talk about tools, sometimes it's just sort of seeing what somebody else did to get us inspired or to give us that kind of push to try something else. So knowing about the tools and how they may have helped other programs or instructors, that's fantastic as well. And I will put that name of the tool into the slides, so that will be available after the session.
And if you don't mind, Monica, I just want to add that we're in the process of creating an AI toolkit, very, very fundamental, basic toolkit, and we will be creating a Google site for it. And that training will be done probably in February 2026, but just keep an eye for that one. I'm marketing my stuff, but I think that would be really helpful for practitioners and programs too.
Well, this is about marketing. This is about reaching the community, right? So this is perfect. Now we are getting close to the end, so feel free to post any comments or feedback or questions in the chat. But in the meantime, I have a final question for you before we wrap up for today, and there will be a separate feedback form. But I just want us all to kind of pause and think for a second. What was your takeaway from today's session? Is there anything that you plan to try, explore in your program after hearing our guests talking about the tools they use, the things they have tried, approaches they have taken? So again, this is a Slido tool. You can scan the QR code or go to the website slido.com to answer the question. This is just kind of to reflect a bit before we wrap up for today. So I hope it will be a good way, an easy way for you to let us know. And then we will be wrapping up soon with some of the extra things that are coming up and then the feedback form that we all need to do when we wrap up our sessions. Let's reflect for a few minutes. Use narratives. That's fantastic. I love that. The importance of succession of ideas in LBS. Perfect. Good ideas and information. This is great. It's always because we work with so many different programs, and sometimes we connect and we hear somebody else say something, or the way they present it, or the ideas. Like again, I'm just thinking of the slogans on those lockers from Christina, right? It just comes up from the pictures or on other things, but it can really make such a difference for us as organizations. And whether we are network, we are support agency or delivery agency, we learn from each other and we can really make a difference in that way. Perfect. Oh, beyond 4 videos. There you go. See? Everybody's willing to try something. So this is fantastic. Perfect. Think about those things, reflect about them. We will be sharing the slides with you. We will be sharing the information afterwards as well. Now, before we wrap up for today, we just have a few more minutes, and I really also want to be very mindful of your time. And I really appreciate all the feedback you're putting in the chat as well. We do have more upcoming events from AlphaPlus and beyond, but some of the things that are coming up, Ambreen mentioned the Canva. So this is our new initiative this year, lunch and learn sessions, 30 minutes. So it's really tight. And as you know, I speak pretty fast, but this is a way for us to kind of share some ideas and tips with you as well. We know many programs use Canva. We know many programs use templates in Canva, but we really kind of wanted to go through some of the tools that you may not have tried before, like removing background or setting up a poster from scratch, just kind of to get everybody thinking and then more comfortable with the tool. So that's happening next week on Tuesday. Our second showcase, which is happening in a month on June 3rd, we'll be looking at succession planning, contingency, and onboarding. So three different kind of areas we're looking at, but it's really, I know it's a bit maybe more a bit more for administrators, but also for staff because we are all sharing, we are learning from each other. The podcasts about new staff joining the program, that could be a way to onboard them and give them some information about LBS, but also some resources and tips. So we will have again a few programs joining us to discuss that and really invite you to come and join us as well. Also at Alpha Plus, we have more PD training. So there is enhancing literacy skills with visible thinking strategies. That's happening May 15th, 22nd, and 29th. And that's Tracy, who is here with us behind the scenes a bit. She will be coordinating those sessions and also communities of practice. And we will be looking at information literacy. So a lot of exciting things happening and coming up. We really invite you to check out the link in the slides. It actually goes to one posting with all the information that you may find helpful and useful if you want to follow up. I want to wrap up and just let you know that the recording from today, the slides are now going to be posted in our resource library on Alpha Plus website. So that's when you'll be finding all the information from what we have done so far. I really hope you will be joining us for the session next time in June. But in the meantime, before you log off, I really invite you to give us a bit of feedback, ideas for future topics, what could we do better, what can we improve, what went well. All that information is really valuable to us. So I really thank you all for joining us, for participating, and staying in with us to listen to the different tips and resources we have been sharing with you. And on that note, we have a few more minutes. If there are any more questions, any other tips, I know some of you may be doing something else that wasn't mentioned. Feel free to mention that as well before we wrap up today. And on that note, if you need to leave, I want to thank you. I want to thank our guest presenters, Ambri, Susan, and Christina. Thank you so much, as well as our interpreters, Rebecca and Kim. It always makes a difference to have all the support that you provide for us during showcases and as partners in the community. So thank you.